All right, sorry about that, everybody. I'm back in business. We'll move into the roll call portion of the meeting, starting on my right.
Freeman here.
Brady here.
Nader here.
Austin here.
Roberts here.
Quorum is present. Moving down to the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item from either the Planning Commission or from the floor, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Is there any item any member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
No.
Any item any member of the Planning Commission would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Freeman with a second by Brady that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Regular agenda item number 1, cottages at University Park. Located at the northeast corner of Gardner and University, Todd Allen Brand of Payne and Brockway, PA, applicant and Cottage Park LLC, property owner of record. There will be 2 pieces. We have item A, Z-18-01, PDP-18-01, hold a public hearing and consider rezoning from RP2 to RP3 and RP4 and associated preliminary development plan. We'll let Michelle present that first and then move into item 1B. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Michelle Cricks, planner with the City of Gardner. And this evening, I will be presenting the cottages at University Park. The first item 1A, will be a rezoning case Z-1801 with its corresponding preliminary development plan of PDP 1801. This is a request to rezone this the property from RP2, which is planned two-family residential district, to RP3, a planned garden apartment district, and RP4, planned mixed-density residential district, and a preliminary development plan. So on your screen here is the location of the subject property. It is located at the northwest corner of the city, adjacent, close to Moonlight and just north of 167th Street. To the east of Moonlight is going to be New Century Airport. To the north is going to be a residential development, and to the west will be where the quarry is. So just kind of a quick overview of the project before we kind of get into more of the nuts and bolts. This is a request to rezone 33.639 acres from RP2 to RP3 and RP4. The development will consist of a mix of housing types. So we're going to have 4 different types of building types within this development. We're going to have the compact or detached house compact building style. We're going to have a detached house neighborhood building style, a duplex, and a 4-plex pinwheel style home, which is kind of more of that garden apartment building type that's shown within our code. Overall, we're looking at 160 dwelling units for the project. The project will also consist of open space, which will have walking trails. There's going to be a central amenity area with pool, fire pit, and a play area. And there's also going to be landscape buffers between this development and the residential around that we'll get into here in a little bit. There's also, with this project, a preliminary plat, and that's going to be PP-1801. I will talk about that case after we talk about the rezoning, the development plan, and we get through the public hearing portion. This 33 acres was originally part of a preliminary development plan for University Park, which was approved back in 2003. That development include a rezoning application and a preliminary development plan on 157.5 acres, about. There were 5 zoning designations within that development. There was RP2, RP3, RP5, which is more of an apartment, CP2, which is a business, and then the CO, which is an office designation. There was a mix of multifamily and commercial uses, and as of today, there's only a small portion of that development that has been constructed, and which is a multifamily duplex portion of that development. So, on the graphic in front of you here is the site located right in the middle, and this just kind of gives you kind of the utility layout of the entire site. In the yellow, there is the gas lines. You can see that kind of up Gretna, up around Blair, and coming up White Drive. The red is going to be an electric. It's going to be up Gretna, kind of along that western property line of our subject site, along a portion of the north property line. There's electric utilities down Moonlight, and then we've got the water, which runs along University, Moonlight, and White Drive. So here's kind of what the surrounding zoning looks like for our project. Our project being that kind of the blank, kind of unplatted, or that platted area kind of right in the middle. But you can see to the north of the site is zoned R1. That is currently Copper Springs, which is a single-family residential development that is under construction, and we've had some preliminary plats here recently within the last 6 months or so for that site. To the east is a rural residential, which is actually a county zoning. There's 4 lots directly adjacent to our subject site that are actually not within the city boundaries. They are within the county. So they're going to have a county zoning designation of rural residential. The pink, just directly east of our site and south of our site, is planned general business for commercial. The light blue is going to be our office. And then RP3 is going to be on the west side of University Drive. So just kind of some quick visuals of the site. It's pretty much a vacant field. The applicant might be able to, and I apologize, I think this has probably been for some agricultural use. It's vacant. This particular shot is from the southeast corner, kind of looking to the north and west. You can see over on the left-hand side of your screen, there's going to be, you can see the duplexes from University Park, and way off in the distance, you can start seeing some of that single family in Copper Springs. There's a tree line buffer on the right side, and that kind of is a break, and behind that is going to be those large rural lots that we talked about that's within the county. This shot is going to be taking from where Gretna currently terminates into the project. Right now, Gretna comes off of University Drive, comes into kind of the north and east, and then it terminates and then turns to your left or to the north to go up Blair. So this is from that shot from where Gretna currently terminates, looking to the north and east. This next shot is up from 164th Street at the very north end of the site, looking due east. Just again, kind of a general feel for the area. You can see it's the vacant land. So currently, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property, which is currently zoned to RP2, as I've discussed, to RP3, which is in maroon on the graphic in front of you, and RP4, which is in brown. So you can see kind of the RP3 is going to be to the south and east of the project. The RP4 will be to the north and west and along that north property line. The RP3 being the planned garden apartment district, the RP4 being a planned mixed density residential district. So this graphic in front of you is the shot of the area from the comprehensive land use plan. That's from our comprehensive plan. You can see here that it actually shows the site is going to be for low density residential, and just for a visual reference, that little keyhole notch that's in light green for that kind of more of an open space that's showing here, those are those county large lots that is adjacent to the east side of our property line. So both the single family and the duplex building types the applicant is proposing is it consistent with low density residential. But the fourplexes, the fourplex pinwheels really are not consistent with low density residential. So Also part of our comprehensive plan, we have these residential area plans. And there's 3 types of residential areas of growth within the comprehensive plan. We have our traditional residential area growth, and that area is located kind of close to the downtown core. That's kind of the old traditional part of downtown. And then we have the contemporary growth area, and that area, if you remember back to when we talked about Bethel Estates a few months ago, that area is in a contemporary growth area. And if you kind of think of it concentric rings, we have our contemporary is located to the core, then it's going to be our traditional to the core, our contemporary the next ring, and then we have what's called new growth. And in the comprehensive plan, new growth is undeveloped land that provides for a clean slate for future residential development to contribute to and enforce the city's existing character and identity. The new residential growth is to ensure new development meets the requirements of the Gardner Land Development Code, and it provides flexibility where necessary to accommodate a variety of housing types and intensities. So the proposed plan that by the applicant with the mix of type residential, the zoning and the building types is consistent with that area plan. Also, when the adoption of the new Gardner Land Development Code in 2016, the city created a new zoning district with the R4, which is that mixed density residential. And it'll accommodate a mixed density neighborhood with a diversity of housing types consistent with character to support a variety of recommendations of the comprehensive plan. However, the comprehensive plan does not currently include an equivalent future land use designation for mixed density residential development, and therefore it can't be consistent with the land use plan at the time. We haven't updated it, so we're trying to fit it in as we can. Staff did advise the applicant of the R4 zoning district that would best accommodate the development proposed. And as will be discussed later, the applicant has taken care to arrange the development to reflect the transition of density. Okay, so talk a little bit about the preliminary development plan. What's in front of you is the original preliminary development plan that was approved back in 2003. So it just kind of gives the overall layout of all 157 acres that was originally proposed. And so originally that in 2003 it was agricultural. We have all the zoning designations, and as part of that zoning process, the preliminary plan is required. So this next part here, the area highlighted in red is the area that is being considered tonight for the rezoning and as part of the preliminary development plan and the preliminary plat. So within this area, originally this area had 100 lots and 200 dwelling units proposed. And you'll see here in a little bit how the dwelling units are being reduced from what was originally approved in 2003. So the preliminary development plan is proposing a mix of residential building types. So we have, again, our detached house compact building type, our detached house neighborhood building type, our duplex building type, and our garden apartment building type in the form of the fourplex pinwheel style homes. So what the applicant is proposing is now 160 dwelling units. That's actually a reduction of what was originally approved back in 2003 by 40 dwelling units. So we have reduced, the applicant has reduced density for this project. So on the graphic in front of you now, we've highlighted an area of red, and this is the area of where the detached house compact and detached house neighborhood building styles are going to be proposed. You can see that the applicant has put those closest to the single-family residential along the northern property line to keep that more single-family residential feel that's already existing within Copper Springs. All these building types will have side entry garages. They will be on smaller lots, so they won't be on 8,000 plus square foot lots, so there is a little bit more density, but they're still a single family style home. Along the west property line, the applicant has proposed duplex building types. Now, to the west in the RP2 zoning district is where duplexes are currently have been constructed and are currently under construction. So the applicant has placed new duplexes adjacent to the existing duplexes under construction. Again, it's that transition of density, keeping the new building types adjacent to what's currently existing. And then down here at the southeast, and this whole area is going to be proposed to be zoned RP3, is much higher, is a higher density of a combination of the duplex and those 4 quad pinwheel homes. And they have kept that density furthest away from the existing lower density residential to the north and west. The applicant has proposed significant amount of green space. There's a nice 50-foot wide buffer between the existing duplexes and the new proposed duplexes with a walking trail. There's a 20-foot buffer between the single family proposed and the existing single family of Copper Springs. There is a significant amenities tract located essentially within the middle of the development that's going to have active areas. And there's a trail loop that also connects to the public realm with the walking trails around the development. There is a detention basin proposed along the east property line. This detention, it will be a dry basin unless there's a rain event that will require it to be filled and then engineered to be released. Also, as part of a requirement from the Land Development Code between the RP3 and RP4 zoning designation proposed by the applicant, they are required to provide a minimum of an 8-foot landscape buffer between their development and the RP2, the R1 zoning district to the north, and the rural residential to the east. So they are providing that. Those details of the final landscape plan will be provided when they come in for their final development plan. But they have thought about it, they've looked into it, and made sure that the site can accommodate that. What's going to be unique about this project is what the applicant is proposing called limited common elements. And the limited common elements are only going to be proposed in the RP3 zoning districts, those buildings, which is those duplexes and the 4 quad pinwheels. And those are the only buildings that this limited common element will be proposed. A limited common element are these building elements basically that are attached to the building, but they will extend beyond the lot line into the common area. And we're talking such amenity or such elements such as a patio, a deck, maybe a portion of a driveway or a walkway. And it's for the exclusive use and it's the maintenance of the homeowner. And the limited common elements are owned and maintained by the homeowner. Excuse me. The final boundaries of the limited common elements are going to be further defined in the homes association covenants and deed restrictions, and then also on the plats. So as final plats come in, we'll start seeing, if approved, we'll start seeing the limits of the limited common element. This is a new and innovative feature within the city of Gardner. The applicant did provide to staff for review similar places in Olathe, in Lenexa, and Overland Park, where this is starting to be used. And it is staff's opinion that something like this kind of meets the intent, excuse me, the intent of a planned district to encourage that innovative design. Excuse me. So the applicant has requested some deviations which can be considered by the Planning Commission as part of a planned district. So one deviation that is being requested by the applicant is to request a 20-foot setback for the duplex building type in the RP4 zoning district only. The standard for this building type is 25 to 50 feet, so they're requesting to push it up by 5 feet. The applicant states that, pushing this up towards the front will actually kind of open up that open space in the rear of these buildings. And also, it is staff's opinion that the reduced setback will help promote community and interaction among neighbors and help bring people out into the public realm. And staff is supportive of this deviation. Okay, so the next deviation, and I broke it up in the staff report, but I'm going to combine this one into two separate discussions because it's just the difference in the staff report are the building types. But the reduced setback for both the duplex and the garden apartment building type in the RP3 zoning district. So that's that area on the south and east of the development. And the standard is so they're asking for a 3-foot setback from around the lot lines. The standard setbacks for both building types is a front yard setback of 25 to 50 feet. The side yard setbacks is 7 and the rear yard is 25. The proposed for the duplexes and the fourplexes is to maximize the amount of open space for the development and to limit some property ownership and offer the look and feel of a maintenance-provided community. This option supports one of the goals referenced in the comprehensive plan by supporting housing options that would be beneficial to multiple age groups, which including empty nesters or older individuals who would like to continue home ownership without yard maintenance. And staff is supportive of this request. Third request by the applicant is reduced lot sizes for lots 1, 48, 49, and 88 only in the RP4 zoning district. And on the graphic above, it just the red dots are highlighting which one of those which lots are being requested. The minimum lot sizes for the duplex building type is 10,000 square feet or 5,000 square foot per unit. Lot 1, which is located at the very far northwest corner of the development, is directly adjacent to other duplexes and another lot which has a reduced lot size, and that reduced lot size was approved with the preliminary development plan in 2003. It is also adjacent to a community green space and pedestrian trail, so increasing the lot size will actually impact that community amenity. Lots 48 and 49, which are located side by side on the on the west side of Cottonwood, adjacent to that green space. The lots around them have been expanded to accommodate side entry garages, and so these kind of became these leftover lots. And so to be able to put the lots in, we couldn't do the side entry garage entries, so they also had to be kind of reduced in size to be able to fit the house on the lot. Lot 88, which is that other lone lot just across the street from those two dots, increasing that lot would actually impact the green space, impact the pedestrian trail, and therefore have an impact to the community amenity. And staff is supportive of that deviation. The applicant is requesting 7 of the duplexes to have front-loaded garages. And this is in the RP4 zoning district only. The Gardner Lane Development Code limits 25% of the facade to be for duplexes to be front-loaded garage. They could be up to 45% of the full front facade if the building is set back 15 feet or more from the front building line. And so what lots would be impacted by a double front-loading garage would be lots 1, lots 48, 49, 52, 53, 88, and 91. 4 of these lots are on those compressed lots that we talked about with the previous deviation. Overall, for the overall duplex housing stock within this zoning district proposed, it's 28% of the housing stock that they are requesting this deviation to. And in the graphic in front of you, kind of just to show you what we mean by a double-loaded front entry garage. You can see here on lot 49, I kind of highlighted in blue where you have 2 garages coming straight off the house like that. That's what it means by the double-loaded front garages. You can see on lot 50 and 51, I was hoping it showed up a little bit better in red. Hopefully you can see where there's a common driveway and it tees off into a side entry, and then they have one garage that faces out. So this is kind of show what the difference is between those two types of what their duplexes that they're showing there. So lots 1, 52, 88, and 91 are all adjacent to common open space, and it appears that providing a side or rear loading garage entry would impact that community amenity and reducing or removing pedestrian connections. And also, it is staff's opinion that changing it up between some of the front entry double loaded and the side entry would also provide more of a diversified housing stock and floor plan for the applicant. And staff is supportive of that request. And finally, the applicant is requesting a front parking lot setback of 20 feet for the pool parking lot. The standard within the Gardner Land Development Code is 25 feet for front parking lot setbacks in residential districts. It is requested by the applicant to keep the parking lot setback in line with the 20-foot proposed setback for the duplexes along Cottonwood, if that deviation is approved by the Planning Commission. It is staff's opinion that if the pool parking was designed to the setback standard, there would be no significant impact to the community amenity, and therefore staff does not support this particular request, and staff has stipulated that the pool parking lot front setback will be 25 feet as required by the Gardner Land Development Code. So staff finds with this rezoning and the preliminary development plan that the plan is consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan, that the project is providing a mix of housing which can serve multiple age groups within the Gardner population. The development is consistent with the Gardner Land Development Code by proposing an innovative design, and the proposed development promotes site and building design and mitigates potential impacts adjacent to adjacent property owners. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission recommend approval of case Z-1801, a rezoning from RP2, planned to family residential district, to RP3, planned garden apartment district, and RP4, planned mixed density neighborhood district, and case number PDP-1801, a preliminary development plan for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP 945-0000, 0T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street, to the governing body with one condition. That condition being that the pool parking lot front setback shall be 25 feet as required in section 17.09.040B of the Gardner Land Development Code. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Great presentation. We will now open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record. Individuals will be allotted around 5 minutes. Those representing in a group around 7 minutes. And if we have the applicant here with us tonight, this would be a great time to come forward and speak on this project. So please approach the podium, state your name and address for the public record.
Hi, Todd Allenbrand, Payne and Brockway, 426 South Kansas Avenue, Olathe, Kansas. First, I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to come before you to present this project, and we're very excited about it. And I'm here with the developer, Craig Schaefer, and another gentleman from our office, David Ratley. And I think Michelle did a wonderful job on the presentation. I mean, I don't even know if there's any, way to follow up on that. That was a really great job and explained a lot of the stuff we're looking for. We've read through the report and we agree with the staff, and we have no problem with changing the parking lot deviation. We don't think that that's an issue, but if you guys have any questions about anything specific, we'll try to answer, but just want to let you know that we're in agreement with the staff and we're here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Great. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. My name's Melissa Smith. I'm at 16483 Blair Street.
Okay.
And I was kind of taken aback. We just recently closed on our home, so I didn't really realize all of this was going on at the time. We do feel that it should have been disclosed to us of the plans prior to, and we have some concerns about the places in the RP3 area right directly behind us, and we are concerned about those actually being moved versus being rented. And we are purchasers, we are not renters. We're like one of the few on that street that did purchase our home, and we would like to know what the reassurance is going to be for our home value, since we did just recently buy. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any others wishing to speak this evening? Seeing no others coming forward, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing made by Freeman with a second by Brady. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. The public hearing is now closed. Questions, comments from the commission? We've heard from both the applicant and a citizen here with us in the audience, so we always appreciate the comments. I'll just start down with Heath.
Okay.
Do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I did have one quick question. So as we look at this as a whole for the rezoning, I'm just curious why the portion to the west end that is planned for duplex development wasn't left as an R2 and instead chosen to be an R3, since it was planned for duplex development. So I just was curious the thought process behind that, in case I'm missing something. I'm not certain that. That's the first thing that stuck out, is we're rezoning duplex district for duplex houses. So I don't know if that was on the part of the developers and they thought that would be a best. I just wonder what led us to go that route. If it just because in the parcels they don't want to have 3 individual planning districts
Why it was from a R2 to an
to an
R3.
R3 when it's still planned for.
Duplexes.
That was directed by staffs to try to give the applicant opportunity to have multiple building types within a zoning district.
Okay.
The compact duplex, or excuse me, the compact detached residential and the neighborhood is not allowed in the RP2. So just kind of provided a it just kind of keeps it kind of more kind of cohesive altogether. When the RP3 allowed multiple building types within it, where it's a little bit more limited on the RP2.
Okay.
So allows for more of a mix of styles, is that what I heard?
It certainly would allow for a very mix of styles, but then as we look at the plat, can't get the term right, but as we look at the plat, obviously that's not what the case was as they ended up platting it. It is planned for the 2-family residential for that site. So, but if staff still feels it's appropriate, seeing the proposed plat to be 2-family residential, is it still appropriate to have it as RP3 then? Though that's still staff's finding to go ahead and accommodate that?
Correct. Well, and that would be the RP4 that's adjacent to I apologize, the RP4 is what's going to be the duplex and
That's
the
right.
single
I
family.
apologize. Okay. Then my
And,
quick go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I was just going to say, sir, apologize, but the fact that this is a planned district.
Yes.
So they'll be coming in with a final plan that will
Right.
have to follow the preliminary plan. So any changes, they'll have to come back as part of the planned district and resubmit a revised preliminary development plan if they want to deviate from what's being, if it's approved.
Correct, but if they were to do so, they would be able to have varying housing styles to back up against those duplex lots to the west of them.
That would be correct, and that would be a discretion from review by the planning commission if they feel that was appropriate.
Well, we wouldn't have discretion at that point because it'd be zoned and be allowed as long as it was appropriate housing for RP4. Because we're rezoning not contingent to the plat, we're rezoning and then the plat is the preliminary plat that has to come back for final approval. If we rezone it, and I apologize to my developers, I'm asking the questions just because these are all the what-if scenarios. I have every intention and understanding that that's not exactly what, but they absolutely could. If things would change and the market changes between now and the time dirt's cut, they could come back and then change the density in that zone to the left, to the west. Am I understanding that correctly?
They could apply, but it would still go through the public hearing process.
Well, certainly it would, but since we've rezoned it to RP4, as a planning commission, as long as it was RP4 appropriate housing, then, I mean, we would be unjust to rule differently in that regard, I guess is what my point is. And I'm speaking in this in directly to Mrs. Smith's question about that. Obviously, there's only a certain level of protection that we can have, but those homes to the west are duplexes, correct? Correct. This would be that buffer layer that then by the zoning. So perhaps I wonder if this isn't the best way to do so. If it should have maintained and had 3 densities or 3 planned districts within it.
I think what we tried to do, if you'll look at the landscape buffer map that we currently have up on the screen, in order to take care of some of that concern, the developer has put in place a permanent buffer between the existing duplexes and the future duplexes, which more than offsets the requirements of the city to help buffer those 2 areas, one from the other. So it was an effort on the part of the developer and their thought processes that this zone, in order to be more compatible, should be set apart a little bit, and they used part of their required open space requirements and amenities to try and do that. So they are in effect trying to comply with some of the concerns of the view of the existing property owners that they currently have to the north and east by allowing that. But the RP4 zone itself, you are correct, allows for more variation, and the reason it was put into the land code originally was to allow for this kind of development to occur within the city, to give the city more housing options within a subdivision itself rather than being all one thing.
Right.
It's supposed to give the developer and the city more ability to respond to both the housing needs of the community and the marketplace of the community. So in effect, that's an effort, and the first effort actually that we've had since we made the land code changes and adopted the RP4 zoning. This is the first effort we've had by a developer to use that zoning to that effect. So we may have a few hiccups and definitions and thought processes here, but the intent is to merge the new and the old together by using this new zoning technique and by buffering it in addition to allow for some breathing space between those 2 types of items. Does that help, sir?
A bit, yeah. I think my concerns are still the same, but I understand exactly why staff did what they did, but perhaps a difference of opinion, maybe that side of it. I did have 2 other questions, I guess, in regards to the pool parking. Although thankfully our developer is very accommodating in that regards. I almost wondered, though, from a consistency standpoint, since we've granted the 20-foot step back in almost all the other instances, if it's not appropriate just to keep that consistent through the development as a whole, because it doesn't look like it makes any impact from really the only reason staff didn't think it was appropriate because it wasn't necessary to maintain the green spaces and some of the amenities that we're trying to. But by setting it back at 20 feet, I don't think it impacts those either. Is that probably a safe assumption? Because Michelle, I apologize. From a personal standpoint, I think it's best to keep it consistent throughout the development. It's one developer,
20,
one person,
20.
20-foot step back all the way across. When it's not going to have any negative impact, especially in that pool parking scenario.
You have the ability to strike that stipulation if you want. So if that's what you believe is best for the development, that's that opportunity to do that.
By doing so, it's not, the alarms aren't flying off from a planning perspective. Okay? Then my final question was for the developers, to the best that you can answer at this point, is the intent to build and then sell, or sell lots and build once they're sold? To tie back into the sell versus rent scenario that could present itself.
The intention of Mr. Schaefer is to build and sell.
Okay.
Everything is going to be sold. Similar as it is now, the duplex lots will be sold. The single-family cottage homes will be sold. The pinwheels will all be sold. It's kind of a funny name, but the duplexes that are in the zoning with the pinwheels, we kind of call them skinny duplexes because they just like skinny duplexes. But his intention is everything is going to be sold. And just to give you an idea, each unit in the pinwheels are probably going to be $250,000 to $275,000.
Okay.
So to give you a price range, kind of an idea. But that's what his intention are. He's not going to rent any of this stuff. It's going to be built and sold. And then another thing to point out that, and maybe it didn't come across on the report. One thing, the detention basin is actually going to be a wet bottom basin, so it's going to look similar to like a lake or pond. So it's going to give it's another amenity when you've got a wet bottom basin and developments and stuff. And I want to point out one thing about the duplexes that you were mentioning, the duplex lots, and the staff was accommodating about the zoning and, Sharon, working out a zoning that seemed appropriate. I'm not an attorney, but in my opinion, I believe that when you have a zoning go through, it's tied to the plan. So the only way I feel that we could deviate from not doing the duplex lots would be to reintroduce a different zoning even though it might be allowed, since it's a planned district, in my opinion, it's tied to the plan itself. So if we wanted to come in there, say, single family in that area, I don't think it would be allowed. I think we would have to come back through in front of you guys and have a whole public hearing. But again, his intentions aren't to do that because he wants to kind of have a transition. And another thing I thought I would point out is that if we went back to the original plan that was approved, the existing duplex lots that are there would have duplex lots right up behind them, no buffer. They would be right against their property. And we feel adding the buffer is a big benefit for the homeowners, because not only will all the homeowners within this new development be able to use it, but the current homeowners will have the same opportunity to use the trails and such.
Great.
Thank you.
I think that addresses the things I had asked.
Get your questions? Okay. Tim?
Melissa, I wanted to say thank you to you for coming tonight. It takes a lot of courage to stand up there and talk in front of others and state your opinion. And I do feel bad that you did not have the disclosure that this was happening. And I don't think that's a responsibility of this body or the staff. My guess is your realtor should have disclosed that. Because I think if that would have been asked at City Hall, they would have told you kind of maybe what's in the works. So I feel badly that that was not disclosed to you by your realtor. In terms of your home value, we hear that frequently from within this group. I feel your pain. I had a similar situation where I've got Bethel Estates in now my backyard here shortly. And would it change the property values? I don't know. Right now, property values in Johnson County are very high. And I was kind of glad to hear from a proprietor that the value of these places are going to be $250,000 homes. Or I think at the pinwheels we're going to be $250,000. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's a nice value of a home in Gardner. In fact, that's higher than the average home in Gardner. So anyway, I applaud you for being here. I don't know how this will all turn out, but thanks for being here and sharing your opinion.
Any questions? Okay. Brad?
I guess I had a question on the limited common element. And I know it's a new thing for us to see, so I just wanted to talk about it a little bit and understand why the lot line doesn't encompass everything that the people are responsible for, how that works.
Just looking for some
Anyway,
more information on what that is entailing. I guess something new for us. I don't know if that Michelle or applicant, come share with us about the concept of the limited common element.
Yeah, so a limited common element is like a patio or a porch or a sidewalk or even their driveways that's outside of their property envelope, but it's allotted to a specific unit that's only used by that specific unit. So in this sense, in those pinwheels and the skinny duplexes, there's a portion of their driveway that's outside of the property, but it's also outside of the access easement. So that is their limited common element that's tied to that unit. And obviously, I guess talking to staff, it's kind of new, something that it's new to you guys. We've done this in Overland Park, Lenexa, Olathe. I'm trying to think of some developments. There's a development at 159th and Ridgeview called Asbury that's pinwheels, and it's got the same type of stuff. There's one up at 132nd east of Antioch that has this type of element. There's another one in Lenexa. I can't remember the street it's on that has this element. And what it is, it's, they know that based on where the property line's established by the building footprint, that portions of this stuff is going to be outside of it. So that's allowed, limited common elements are allowed in the Apartment Act so that they can have use for those facilities that are outside the property, and then they're responsible for them. And one thing to give you an idea on the minimum setback that we're asking for is that setback, the minimum 3 foot, it would be at the furthest point of the building foundation, and that essentially covers up like the soffit or any architectural features that might be outside of the building foundation. And that's the only reason for that. But most of these buildings, the way we've got them positioned, very little of the building will be seen, from the public right of way. We've got them situated in such a way that they're, facing each other, limits what's seen on the public. So it opens the area up as you look from the public street. So I don't know if that helps with the limited common element. They're kind of defined more in the covenants and restrictions than they are, and then they're shown on the final plat, so it becomes part of another legal document that's recorded.
Okay, and since it backs up to the common green space where nobody's going to try to build in there anyway, then I don't necessarily have an issue with it in this instance. If it was backing up to somebody else's property where they could potentially want to build, then that would be an issue because you're building across your property line. You did touch on another question that I had, though, was the limiting that side setback or that side separation down to 3 feet. So that covers it out to your overhang on your roof.
Yep.
So essentially your two roofs can be almost touching each other, which is...
Well, we are maintaining, we don't have any buildings closer than 20 feet apart in this development. So other than where they're connected, obviously, they're going to be touching. But from lot to lot, there's 20 foot of distance between the buildings. So I'm not quite understanding what you're saying about the roofs almost touching.
If your lot line is 3 feet from your building on either side, and that's intended to cover your overhang of your roof from this wall of the building to the overhang, then your two overhangs are going to be potentially right up next to each other.
I'm trying to follow because the buildings, the fourplexes and the duplexes in that zoning have a building envelope around the whole building, and then there's 20 feet or more in between a next building. I mean, granted, if the units within those buildings, the roofs will obviously touch.
Right. So,
Yeah, they're not, those property lines aren't common to another property line. Those property lines are surrounded by open space. There's not a building adjacent to it that's, contiguous with that property line.
okay.
If I'm making sense, if that's,
You are, it just doesn't, on the plan, it sure doesn't look like they're all 20 feet apart. If you're, and I didn't dimension it on the scale drawings, but, which units have the 3 foot?
it would be all the units that are in the RP3 zoning. I think if you look on the page that has the colored zoning, that might help you a little bit more to see what I'm talking about. Let me go to that in a minute. Because it doesn't show the buildings, but it shows the property lines. So if you look at the RP3, and I know this is kind of small, but if you look, these are all the property lines of the buildings, and the buildings are inside these envelopes.
Right.
So none of those are, the property lines could be getting, say, within 10 feet of each other, but the buildings were, maintaining 20 feet apart.
Okay. And so you're not asking for the 3 foot on the duplex side?
No. Only on the RP3 zoning. So what we're doing, we're finding that a lot of these type of products, you're getting, empty nesters or people that are wanting to maybe possibly downsize. So they want property ownership, but they don't necessarily want the big lot. So we're giving them that property ownership, but yet we're not giving them this big area to maintain. So, the area is all being maintained by the home association, mowing and stuff, but this also allows for them to do, plant flower beds adjacent to the building, their unit or something. So it's giving them ownership, but it's also giving them that, that community feeling, that, maintenance provided community feeling.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, I misunderstood where that was being applied, so I apologize for that.
That's all right.
I think one more question until I think of another one. For the building setbacks, I assume there's sidewalks along the streets. How far off of the street are the sidewalks?
The sidewalks will be, you're asking me to do some math here in my head real quickly. 6 feet from the back of the curb will be the closest point of the sidewalk, the public sidewalk. I think that's what you're talking about. Or 1 foot from the property, they'll set 1 foot into the right of way, the public sidewalk. And it's on both sides of the streets.
Okay, so, and they're 5 foot sidewalks,
Correct.
right? So that's 11 feet, which means now we're 9 feet from our building. So you're gonna have a bunch of people parking across your sidewalks probably with that setback, right?
For which one?
Yeah, all of them.
No, there should be at least 20 feet between the building and the property line. So there would be enough to park a full car without any vehicular overhang onto the public sidewalk.
Yeah, the building lines are
The back
established
side
from
of
the right of way.
sidewalk. Yeah.
So
Not
if
in the
you,
streets.
so if there wasn't a sidewalk there, like if you're at your resident, you live at a single family residential house, say your house is 25 feet off the right of way, you're really at the curb, it looks like it's 36 feet because your curb is 11 feet from the right of way and your house is 25 feet from the right of way.
Do you have one of those that shows the building line?
I apologize, it'll be pretty condensed what I find, but I'll find it.
Yeah.
You know the one you use to show the narrower lots? That's got the little detail, that one probably would show it. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, so the 20-foot building line is from the sidewalk?
No. I think you're looking at the same slide I'm looking at, where she's got it circled and it says 20 foot.
Yeah.
That 20-foot measurement comes from the heavier-looking line that's got a dimension of 86 feet. So from that line, the only reason that line is even heavy is because the edge of the sidewalk is within 1 foot of that line, and then right out towards the street is the 5-foot sidewalk, and then there's 6 foot or actually 5 foot of green space before you get to the curb.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Good, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, Brad, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, Tori.
I have no questions, I'm good.
Okay, great. I don't have any specific questions either. I like the mix of housing types, and it's good to know that these will be purchased and not for rent. If there's no other questions or comments from the commission, I would entertain a motion on this item.
I recommend that the planning commission recommend approval of case number Z-18-01, a rezoning from RP2 district to RP3 district and RP4 district, and case number PDP-18-01, a preliminary development plan for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP945-0000000T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street, to the governing body with the condition, no.
Yeah.
Ending with a period after the word street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Roberts that after review of case number Z-18-01, which is a rezoning from RP2 Plan 2 Family Residential District to RP3 Planned Garden Apartment District and RP4 Planned Mixed Density Neighborhood District, and case number PDP-18-01, a preliminary development plan for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP 945-0000000T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street, that the Planning Commission recommends approval to the governing body with no additional conditions provided. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Moving on to item 1B, which is now the PP-18-01, the consideration of a preliminary plat for a 91-lot residential subdivision. Shell, do we have a quick presentation on item 1B?
Thank you, Ms. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. This is case PP-1801, a preliminary plat for cottages at University Park, located at the northeast corner of Gretna Street and University Drive. So the preliminary plat shows 91 lots for a mix of single-family residential, duplex, and fourplexes for a total of 160 units. As we discussed in the previous case, this is a reduction of 40 dwelling units as was previously approved in 2003. Primary access into the development will be by Gretna Street off of University Drive there at the southwest corner of the development, and all roads within the development will be public streets. Staff has reviewed the lot sizes for the overall development and determined the average lot sizes are the following. For the detached house compact building type, the average lot sizes is 5,933 square feet. The standard for the the detached house compact building style is between 3,000 and 6,000 square feet. For the detached house neighborhood building style, the average lot is 7,261 square feet, and the minimum lot size for that building type is 6,000 square feet. For the duplex within the RP4 zoning district only, the average lot size is 11,064 square feet, and while the standard for the duplex is 10,000 square feet for the overall lot and 5,000 square feet per unit. All lots meet the minimum lot sizes except those lots which were discussed in the preliminary development plan as part of the plan zoning process that received deviations. Due to the unique nature of the development, the lot sizes within the RP3 zoning district, which is that area on the south and east of the development, for both the duplex and fourplex buildings, we determined the average lot size by taking that overall zoning district, which including the open space, and kind of did an average overall based on all the units. And the minimum lot size for for each unit was determined to be 7,612 square feet per unit. Again, the minimum lot size per unit for a duplex is 5,000 square feet. And the minimum lot size for the fourplex is actually 1,500 square feet per unit. So on the preliminary plat, everything outlined in green is going to be the open space, which is going to be owned and maintained by the Homes Association. And within that green is the pedestrian walking trails. So overall, kind of combined, approximately 10 acres of land is going to be dedicated as open space within the development. Within the central amenity feature, we're going to have the pool, there's a fire pit and seating, there's a multi-use play field, and there's a covered shelter that's going to be for community use. So the applicant has proposed to phase development for this project in 5 phases. They're going to start at the very south end of the development, which is access to all the utilities is the easiest at that point, and kind of work counterclockwise around the project. So phase 1 is at this time proposed to be some of the duplexes and some of those fourplex quads. Then they'll move to the duplexes along Cottonwood to phase 2, and phase 3 will include some of the single family neighborhood and compact detached building types. Phase 4, and then phase 5 as it wraps around to the northeast and then along the east property line. Each of those phases should be coming in as part of a final plat and final development plan. So this will be coming back to the Planning Commission for review and consideration as each phase comes in. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve case PP-1801, a preliminary plat for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP 945-00000-0T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street, with one condition, and that condition being approval of the preliminary plat. The approval of the preliminary plat is contingent on approval of the rezoning case number Z-1801 and the preliminary development plan case number PDP-1801. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, any questions? This is pretty straightforward. We've already had good discussion, but any questions?
I only have one question for the developers, and it's in regards to the walking paths. Are the walking paths going to be part of the phases, or will they actually be? And my concern there is the dead-end walking paths as it gets going. If it's between phase 1 and you're waiting to break ground on phase 2, or will that be the last part of that? The curiosity of that is more than anything.
That's a good question. We were planning on phase 1, we wouldn't build any of the walking trails with phase 1.
Okay.
What would happen is when we got phase 2 and 3 in, then we would construct the walking trails from all at once with phase 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense. I was just curious because I like that better than the idea of phase 1 to the back lot and then stopping.
Yeah, that was
okay.
part of the reason phase 1 didn't really necessarily go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, it just would kind of go out there and
Okay.
and quit. But we figured once phase 2 and 3 got in, then we could tie those together from one end to the other. And also to let you know, the reason that the phasing is set up this way is we have to bring the sanitary sewer for phase 4 and 5 from the north. So we have to work out an agreement with that developer to bring that down, and it's 700 feet away, and so we got to kind of coordinate with them so we don't disturb their development up through there or make it work for their development as well. And that's part of the reason for the phasing.
Great, thanks for sharing, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Tim?
Just really more of a comment. I probably should mention this earlier, but I just appreciate the intentionality of the green space and the walking trails. Our community likes that, wants that, so thank you for making that a priority.
Yeah. Good point. Brad?
No questions.
Tori? I'm good. Okay. If we don't have other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
After review of case number PP-18-01, a preliminary plat for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP 9450000 space 0T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street. A staff report dated February 27, 2018, and preliminary plat dated February 14, 2018. I move that the Planning Commission approves the application subject to the following condition. Approval of the preliminary plat is contingent upon approval of the rezoning case number Z-18-01 and preliminary development plan case number PDP-18-01.
Second. We have a motion made by Austin with a second by Roberts that after review of case number PP-18-01, a preliminary plat for the cottages at University Park, parcel ID CP 945000000T0C, located at the northeast corner of University Drive and Gretna Street, a staff report dated February 27, 2018, and a preliminary plat dated February 14, 2018. The Planning Commission approves the application subject to the following condition. Item number 1, approval of preliminary plat is contingent upon approval of the rezoning case number Z-18-01 and preliminary development plan case number PDP-18-01. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay. Regular agenda item number 2, Main Street Corridor Plan. Find that the Main Street Corridor Plan is consistent with the Gardner Comprehensive Plan and initiate a comprehensive plan amendment to incorporate the plan by reference into the comprehensive plan. We have a presentation this evening.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Commissioners. Kelly Drake Woodward, Chief Planner. So this is your first look tonight at the draft Main Street Corridor Plan. Don't worry, you'll get another look next month, because I know you didn't get a lot of time to read it. But kudos if you did read the whole thing. So I thought we'd start by reminding you of your role in long-range planning. This is a quote from the Planning Commissioner's Guide, Citizen Planning Series, American Planning Association. That just reminds you that the comprehensive plan and the regulations that implement that plan represent the policies and laws that you're bound to uphold regardless of your own personal bias. Your decision must ultimately be based on evidence in the public record. So the comprehensive plan, and this will eventually be incorporated into the comprehensive plan, is created with the involvement of the public. It's adopted by representative public officials, and you provide the guidance on those plans, you review the plans, and you give your input on those plans. So your job is to uphold that plan for the community, and you do that by ensuring that all other community plans, all development proposals, public improvement projects, and regulations are consistent with or further the intent of that comprehensive plan. And so it's staff's role to provide you with all the information that's applicable to the decision in front of you and to offer an unbiased recommendation that's consistent with that adopted policy. So you may find a situation where you don't support every statement or every concept or strategy in a particular plan, but if you think that the plan is generally consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan for the community, and it's based on sound data and planning principles, then it should receive your support ultimately. So this does all start with a comprehensive plan, which is that adopted policy document to establish your goals, policies, and strategies to guide future development. It contains the overall vision showing how different community systems all fit together, and it addresses change by identifying those problems and solutions to reveal the long-term potential. The planning process itself engages, educates, and informs the public and your public officials, and it creates a basis for moving forward with some consistency and some support as people change and come and go in leadership positions. The Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan is a specific area plan for a portion of the community. It does have a transportation focus, partly because of the funding. You see below it's funded through the MARC Planning Sustainable Places Initiative and state surface transportation funding. So it's meant to be adopted, as I said, as part of the comprehensive plan. It will serve as a basis to evaluate future public improvement projects and private development projects within the study area or that are addressed in the plan. And it also provides a basis for helping to get grant funding. So we're pretty confident that it will be helpful to do that. The Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan is based on some analysis, including a review of 14 existing plans. The consultants reviewed those plans so they could avoid duplicating earlier efforts, not start with redundant conversations, and build on that foundation that was already laid. Also, they did an in-depth market analysis to get a better understanding of the regional market and the demographic forces that impact Gardner. They toured the study area with staff to view existing conditions and discuss known issues and concerns. To help with that focus on the opportunity sites that we wanted a particular vision developed for, they did an analysis on underutilized parcels, and that was based on the current uses, land values, and density on those parcels. And as part of planning for the public improvements, they looked at the existing street configurations and traffic volumes, and the overall street and pedestrian network connectivity. They did also do an analysis of parking counts and locations in downtown in response to property owner and public concerns about parking. This was a very, very extensive public engagement process, probably more public engagement than I've ever seen in any plan. So kudos to all of you that stuck through it and participated, and to all the people who participated. We did have a steering committee of people who represented our citizen advisory committees, Chamber of Commerce, business owners, developers, realtors, residents, teachers, and civic volunteers, and Adriana was the Planning Commission representative on the steering committee. A technical advisory committee was city staff members and also the Southwest Johnson County EDC, Mid-America Regional Council, KDOT, KCATA, and Johnson County. We had 3 public meetings, including a 2-day planning charrette. We published those meetings through email blasts, social media, direct invitations, and flyers. Those were posted in the community, and Larry even delivered some to residents of the mobile home park. 2 times, I think he did. Group meetings with property owners that were impacted by the concept plans for the downtown and the Main Street mixed-use areas, and there was 2 different sessions of meetings with group meetings with those people. We had additional individual property owner meetings, especially with concerned stakeholders such as the First Presbyterian Church, the Gardner Pharmacy, Central Bank of the Midwest, Fair Board, and owner of the mobile home park. And the online survey had over 215 responses, which Confluence was very, very impressed with the amount of response we got on that. So as far as what's in the plan for implementation, the recommendations are all divided into those 4 categories, and they're detailed specifically, and then following that there's the implementation matrix, and that matrix includes priority, general cost versus impact, internal responsibility, potential partners, and the status of the project, so we can monitor them as time goes on. They also have recommendations that pertain to those capital projects grouped together by project, so it's easy for us to go and just grab that project and see what the basic cost projection is, so we can put that in the CIP. We did some research pertaining to the needs of the mobile home park residents to understand the implications of potential redevelopment there and what we might need to consider for policy. And that full market analysis report is being included as a separate document, which you do not have yet. We will give you that for the next meeting. It's a separate document so that we can give it to other people without the plan if they just want the market study, but we want to incorporate it along with the plan into the comprehensive plan by reference. So some of the project highlights, I think the consultants did go over these with you at the last meeting. I don't know if you had any questions about any of those or if you had a chance to read through those. But main thing is the Main Street projects they've recommended median in the downtown, and that's a traffic calming measure. And there's reduction of the widths of travel and parking lanes and putting in of pedestrian refuges and bulb outs and intersection improvements and streetscape amenities and such. The Center Street Bridge improvements, I think, will probably be the first project that the city takes on from what I hear from Public Works, and that's just basically narrowing the travel lanes on the Center Street Bridge so we can go from a 3-foot pedestrian area to 7-foot. So it's just updating the concrete barrier and handrail and then maybe considering a more aesthetic outside barrier to allow the viewing. The Main Street residential sub-area is just basically reconfiguring that from 4 travel lanes down to 2 travel lanes with a turn lane. That gives us more space for pedestrian improvements, intersection improvements, and an off-street path through there. East and West Gateway, the main things are that major gateway signage. So hopefully we can get some funding support for that. Main Street mixed-use sub-area, that's pretty much same as what's going on downtown except without the median. The downtown greens, north and south of City Hall, that involves also the reorganized and new parking, sidewalks, street trees, lighting. So just to create that public amenity. The bike network, which involves the bike boulevards and the off-street paths that you saw in the plan. And then the future land use changes to allow for that extension of the mixed use. And so the staff report went through all the different ways that the Main Street Corridor Plan is consistent with the comp plan. You had the whole matrix of different strategies that the Main Street Plan addressed in the comp plan, and you could have gone through that in extreme detail. And this is just kind of highlighting the most important ones or the most common ones, the diverse housing options. It's consistent with complete streets principles. It addresses all transportation modes. It really is all about those improved connections and even intersection safety, preserving the highway function, safety, improving the business and pedestrian climate. It addresses truck traffic, basically saying, we got to accommodate it, but we want to slow it down so we can have a little bit better environment for our businesses. And then it did look at the grade separated crossings and possibly having more in the future, and those access management standards that are consistent already. Economic development, strengthening downtown and local businesses. There's a pretty good section on that for Larry to work on. Quality of life improvements for downtown, the historic character, sense of place. There's a lot of suggestions about efficiency and access and parking design in downtown particularly. And then those public areas that are fronted by the vibrant businesses that will really make Gardner unique. The land use, again, supporting the mixed-use development, activity center formats, keeping those catalytic projects in there and trying to help them go. Community facilities, it does address that question that keeps coming up on the community center, and it supports the farmers market locations. Furthers the discussion on the future of the Johnson County Fair in Gardner, more than we expected, I guess, maybe more than had been done before. And it does support those multi-purpose sustainable stormwater management facilities that also offer recreation. environmental standards are in there, consistent with the comp plan. So really what this does is it does create that specific area plan that the comp plan called for downtown. It addresses the community outreach and marketing, community heritage and gateway signage, and the public-private partnerships that we need to make it all happen. I did note some changes, as I'm going through the draft yet again of some, grammar things and spelling things. If you have some that you want to mention to me as well, to put in the minutes, we can also note those. The only substantive thing since the draft that you saw is I want to talk to them a little bit more about the appropriate street frontage and open space types for their opportunity areas. So that would be the only thing I would anticipate you seeing a change in, besides getting that market report for the next meeting. So staff is recommending that you find that the proposed Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan furthers many goals, objectives, and recommendations of the Gardner Comprehensive Plan, and is therefore in general conformance with the Comprehensive Plan. And further recommends the Planning Commission initiate a comprehensive plan amendment to consider adoption of the Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan and the associated market analysis report by reference as part of the Gardner Comprehensive Plan. And if the Commission recommends any changes at this time, it will be documented as part of the meeting minutes to be incorporated into the final draft. And there's your recommended motion.
Great. Thank you, Kelly.
Mhm.
All right, we'll just, I guess, start down over here with Heath if he saw any
None for me.
changes. Okay. Tim? Nothing? Brad?
Nothing.
I'm good. None for me.
Wow. I'd agree. I didn't see anything. Being a part of the steering committee was a lot of fun to do, and I'm excited to see this come to fruition. So I don't have any changes at this time. If there's no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion on this item.
Motion that after finding the proposed Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan furthers many goals, objectives, and recommendations of the 2014 Gardner Comprehensive Plan as amended, and is therefore in conformance with the Comprehensive Plan. The Planning Commission initiates a Comprehensive Plan amendment to consider adopting the Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan by reference as part of the Gardner Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
Great. We have a motion made by Brady with a second by Freeman that after finding that the proposed Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan furthers many goals, objectives, and recommendations of the 2014 Gardner Comprehensive Plan as amended and is therefore in conformance with the Comprehensive Plan, the Planning Commission initiates a Comprehensive Plan amendment to consider adopting the Gardner Main Street Corridor Plan and associated market analysis report by reference as part of the Gardner Comprehensive Plan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. That is the conclusion of the regular agenda. I don't know if there's anything else staff has to bring to us this evening.
We would just mention to you that the City Commission is planning on taking action Monday night to expand the Planning Commission back to 7 members, at least temporarily, while we have other members soon to go off. But they will be announcing those names Monday night to the council.
So maybe just to fill out the terms that were vacated, or
Your question is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know my question's a little weird. So, like Brett Leimer, for example, and Karen Lavella, right? They were their term expired.
Almost
So
a
would
year
this
ago.
then be a complete 3-year term, or is it just to fill in until? Because okay.
No,
Perfect.
these would be
Answer my question.
new 3-year terms.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Sorry if I was a little.
Really?
No, good question. I just wasn't following you.
That's and this is obviously a discussion for the council. That would make 5 seats on the city, on the planning commission come up within 1 year moving forward. Because the chairman's seat 9 comes up in April. So that means within 5 years, you're going to have a wholesale change in the planning commission at that point. Or not 5, 4.
4, yeah.
4 people that would be switched out. Maybe is that how it goes?
And that's basically what's occurring now,
Is
so,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
No.
No, it was.
No.
There's supposed to be 2-year separation.
Yeah.
Two.
But
Yeah, two.
because of changes that have occurred in infills, we're at the point where you will have 2 3-year terms starting now, and then 2 3-year terms
Starting.
for whoever's selected.
So there won't be 2 years in between moving forward.
There'll
They can stay on the
be
calendar, it'll be 1
roughly
year.
a year, I think.
Yeah.
We'll review that.
Well done.
Yeah. Okay, Monday night. Okay. Any other?
None for me?
None? Okay. All right, if we don't have anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Freeman with a second by Austin that we adjourn for the evening. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting's adjourned with everybody in favor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Great questions and discussion, you guys.
Huh?